to me.
Information, news, and entertainment on demand.
WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome to WS Radio's Business Spotlight Show.
Thanks for listening in today. I'm Wade Taylor, and on today's show, we're shining our spotlight on the world of investing, specifically investing in microloans, and more specifically, investing in microloans that affect the world of education worldwide. And that is where your investment can have a tremendous impact. We have the good fortune today of being joined by Dr. Paula Cordero. She is a University of San Diego professor that works with international nonprofit organizations in this world of microloans because there is a tremendous need out there. And as somebody is an investor, somebody has done well, somebody has the capacity to do something with their wealth, they do want to, keep an eye on their own financial situation. They need to use that wealth in ways that are positive for themselves and the world. So we're not talking about charity. We are talking about investing. But these days, people want to invest in a product or organization that they know is making the world a better place. They're conscious that they've done well, and they want to see others do well. And so microloans in this world of education allow them to achieve a triple bottom line, where they're not just achieving profit, but they're also helping people and the planet. And so I appreciate you taking time today, Dr. Cordero, to join us and enlighten us a little bit on that. Could you expand on this concept of a triple bottom line, where we are tying doing well to doing good? We're tying profit to people, to the planet, to make this a better place for all of us.
Sure. It's good to be with you, Wade. Thank you for inviting me. What I've noticed in my work in the last 10, 15 years is that there are a lot of people who reach a point in their lives and they want to invest in a product or in an organization that they know is making it a better world. They're conscious that they themselves have done well, and now they want to see other people do well. And I really do believe there's almost like a zeitgeist happening, a changing in our society, of people wanting to reach a deeper or a higher level of social consciousness. So when I'm talking with investors and they have an interest in education, I start talking with them about some of the entrepreneurial work, social entrepreneurial work that's being done. But just to give an example, when you think of a restaurant, which I know right now all of us wish we could go to restaurants, and we're looking for good service, we're looking for good food, of course, that's basic, and we expect the restaurant to be profitable. But if that restaurant is also offering a living wage to their employees, or if they're working with the local food bank so the extra food is not wasted, then these organizations are not only profitable, but they're focusing on that triple bottom line you mentioned. There is the profit, but there's also attention to the people and the planet. So these businesses, and they're on a continuum, but they're hybrids, and many of them are now, they're called social enterprises because they're, again, generating the profit, but they're addressing social problems out there. In the case of the restaurant, it's not wasting food. In the case of other kinds of organizations, it's improving or addressing many of the challenges that our planet faces today.
Right. And you made such a good point about the zeitgeist, and I'm going to attribute at least part of that to media, which gets beat up on a lot, as well as the internet, as well as the jet age, that it brought the world together. It made the world appear a little smaller. It made us aware of the global community, where nowadays we're more aware of the ripple effects of our actions. Well, go ahead.
No, you just hit it. And it's really been the last 20 or so years when the internet has become so prevalent, and social media, from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram, we're all learning about what's happening in countries and places that we just didn't know about before. We didn't even know where they were located. So all this information is coming to us.
Exactly. My generation had Live Aid. And so there was a big event that brought people global awareness. But again, and that's great. That's charity. And again, I want to emphasize, however, we're not talking about charity. Charity's a great thing. But in the business world, we have to worry about truly doing business. And many people might have initially thought, I can't do well by the world and also do well by myself. But your experience has proven that doing well by the world makes it even better for yourself. Is that not correct?
Exactly. And there's more and more data that when organizations, this is going even beyond corporate social responsibility, but when organizations are truly offering other, addressing other issues, that if you offer, for example, a living wage, to your employees, there's a greater likelihood that they're going to offer better service to the people in that restaurant. So it's a whole package rather than just looking at profit. We're also looking at how does this impact our planet, and how does this impact not only the people who work in our organization, but our clients.
Yeah, and I think that's just so important for people to recognize that doing good has ripple effects. Not just your customers are going to be more socially aware, so they're going to be more attentive to what you're doing. But like you said, if I pay my employees better, the employees work better, the customer has a better experience, I am now more profitable. There's just layers of win-win. And so you're taking this whole idea into the world of education, because my gosh, is there no better multiplier for creating a better world than having an educated populace?
Exactly. So I'm working with a couple of international micro-lending organizations. And I'm sure your listeners have heard about microloans to small businesses, maybe at the local farmer's market. Someone receives a loan, or a woman in, an African nation is making baskets, or a collective of people are making jewelry, and they get microloans because they can't go to banks and ask for $1,000 or $500, so they get microloans. But the organizations I'm working with about 10 years ago started saying, well, there are schools all around the world, and they're non-state schools, they're independent schools. They're small businesses. And because of the tax laws in those nations, that they don't have the nonprofit tax-exempt laws that we have. So these schools start out as businesses, small businesses. And these two organizations I'm working with, Edify and Opportunity International, they started saying, we need to provide small loans to them so that these schools can grow and develop, and the children in them can get an education.
Yeah, and I'm in a moment we're going to drill down into the effect that this money has on the school. But could you take a moment and share with us the effect the school has on the community?
Sure. So if you think about it, and now let me pick a country that I'm working in. I'll pick the country of Ghana. So here's a nation that the country does not get the tax revenue. They don't collect enough tax revenue to to provide the services to their population, the infrastructure that the country needs. So the health system, the education systems are underfunded, severely underfunded. So as a result, local entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, we call them edupreneurs, they step forward and they say, I'm going to open up a school and provide an education to children who I saw them in the market and they're not even in school. Because in the world today, we have over 263 million children who are out of school. And then we have another 400 million children who are in school and aren't achieving levels of proficiency. So these folks are addressing that gap, and then these schools are trying to offer good educational services to local families who are low-income families.
Yeah, and we live in this 21st century world. Both of us are in Southern California, so we are towards the forefront of appreciating what a 21st century interconnected, internet-based, knowledge-driven, information-focused society has the potential of doing. But in the third world, they're just starting to scratch the surface. Another organization that I know is dear to both of our hearts is the San Diego Council on Literacy. So tying in literacy with education, how have you seen over the years a more highly educated populace in these third world countries affect the living standard in those third world countries?
Yeah, we know that if children can't read, they're not going to be able to learn. They're not going to be able to get a good job one day or even a decent job one day. So one of the things we're always looking for what can we offer to schools that are going to really help. And these schools need help on how do you access books? How do you improve literacy? One approach to teaching literacy that has been successful in the United States has been to teach it through phonics. Children hear sounds, and then they can reproduce those sounds and put letters together. Well, this kind of training is not even the kind of training that many of the teachers themselves received. So the organizations I'm working with are asking themselves, how can we train the teachers plus get access to books so that children can then, and these are children who in many cases have never had a reading book in their lives. I mean, you and I, Wade, grew up in families that were reading all the time, newspapers, magazines, books. We always give children in our families books, but these are children who have never held in their hands a reading book.
Right. And it has such a profound change. So in a moment, we're going to get into some of the nuts and bolts. But is there any story that you can share with us? Can you allow us to see through your eyes for a moment what it's like actually on the ground someplace like Ghana?
Okay, sure. I've been to hundreds and hundreds of schools there. And again, I'm talking about low-fee independent schools. So these are schools who are serving some of the poorest families, the lowest income families in those nations. So a typical school is not going to be made of sturdy construction. So some of the work I do is helping them to understand what it means to have the conditions for learning that children need. Children need bathrooms, they need toilets, they need soap and water. So there's a big focus for us on creating the conditions before you can even begin to offer a quality education. So a lot of my time is spent on bathrooms and kitchens and making sure that children are receiving nutritious meals, making sure the school campus, for example, has a fence around it so that goats or other animals don't kind of walk into the school building area. To make sure that the classrooms themselves have sufficient light, because electricity and again, we're in some of the poorest communities in a country like Ghana, and they don't have dependable electricity. You can't just take your cell phone and charge it at any time. You have to plan, maybe we'll have electricity. between 12 and 2 o'clock.
And
So picture, yeah, please.
oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. I like that. Picture what?
Yeah, picture you're walking onto a campus. You have buildings in front of you that are concrete. They may or may not have windows that have glass on them, so you can imagine the sound that gets in. The classroom itself, when we first started working with many of these schools, had little, if anything, on the walls of the classrooms. Again, the bathrooms are, they're places that may or may not even have had adult areas to go to the bathroom and areas for girls and boys. So we're doing the basic kind of work to ensure that the proprietors of these schools understand what they need to do before they can really offer any kind of quality training for teachers and students.
Okay, so if I'm somebody that has done well and I've got a pool of money that I could be investing, perhaps instead of investing in a petrochemical company that, I won't even go down that hole, but perhaps that's not the best in the 21st century place to be pushing. Here's an opportunity to make the world a better place, to have your wealth reach into these third world countries where a little bit goes a long way. And not only does your little bit go a long way, but again, I use the term force multiplier, the leverage that bringing education into these communities not only helps with literacy, but helps with health, helps with an overall view of how life works, and provides that path beyond, say, subsistence farming that is what's going to allow that nation or community to grow, that now brings them into our world as a sustainable, thriving, contributing member. So I just really can't stress enough the impact that an investment in this area could have. And then, as you're mentioning some of the nuts and bolts things, let's go ahead and drill down into that. You're there to help. You know what the end goal should be. You know what the potentiality should be. And as I understand, you're there to lead them down that path with some specific, precise advice on the nuts and bolts things that will get them there. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. So when I was originally asked about 8-9 years ago to go into a country like Ghana, my team and I'm at the university, so I brought along some fellow faculty members and students, and we did an analysis. What do these schools need? And do they know what they need? Because sometimes all of us don't know what resources we need because we're not aware of the available resources. So we interviewed the school leaders. And it became very clear. One of the organizations, Edify, had originally said, what kind of teacher training do they need? But we all know that you have to start with the leadership of an organization. Because if the principal of the school or the proprietor of the school or department chairs or whoever is the leadership team, if they don't understand the importance for the conditions of the building or how you do enrollment or how you do a budget, if they don't understand these things, then why would we start with teachers? We're going to begin with them first. So that's what we do. We have training, for example, in how do you do a budget? All of our schools, our partner schools, have training in QuickBooks. Again, as I mentioned, on bathrooms, we do all of the basics. What should be the ratio of students to the number of toilets or sinks? What kind of soap is best? What kind of food should be served in the school? And then we get into more detail of the academic part of things. What are best practices in literacy or early childhood education or in vocational education?
Okay. And, again, I think it's just so amazing that you're having to go to the fundamentals. How many bathrooms per student, right?
Yes,
because you're leading them into a world that they've never experienced before.
Yeah, and a lot of times, it depends on the country. Like when I work in Rwanda, they have a very hierarchical and strong Department of Education. So they have the regulations, and they say, government schools or private schools, this is what your school should look like. So then it's a matter of us ensuring that our partner schools follow those guidelines. But in many of the countries in, for example, West Africa, Sierra Leone, Burkina Faso, Ghana, Liberia, the governments don't have those really tight regulations. So we share with our partner schools the international regulations. And it's sometimes those regulations are from the United States, but then we have 50 states with different regulations. So oftentimes I'll look at the UK or Australia or another country that has some really strong recommendations for what a school should look like, how much space should each child have to do their work at their desks.
And I think that's important because, we are talking about investment. So you need to be a good steward of the money. You need to be making sure that this investment isn't being corrupted, taken away, being used inappropriately by a government. So can you briefly, we've got, about 9-10 minutes left. Can you briefly talk about how you keep an eye on things to make sure that that investment is being used properly?
Yeah, in a couple of ways. So in each of the countries I'm working in, the organization and I have hired what we call education specialists or education technology specialists. So these are people who are delivering, I'm doing the train the trainer, right? They are delivering trainings. They're collecting data on the school. They're collecting metrics that we then share with the investors in these organizations. So our annual reports will say something like, yes, it'll give the numbers, like we made $33 million in loans so far with Edify, for example, or we have 5,100 partner schools, or we're serving 1.5 million children. So we'll have those kinds of metrics. But more importantly, I as an educator say more importantly in particular, is I want investors to understand that children are, because of the initiatives that we are developing in these countries, that we are, it's resulting in greater student learning than if we were doing different initiatives or not doing these trainings. So we have about 8 different buckets that we're measuring in. One of them is the financial bucket. Has the budget been balanced for the last couple of years? What kinds of, what kind of capital improvements does a school need to make? So we have that bucket. Another one would be the leadership bucket of what kind of trainings have these people received and how do they apply those trainings? How do they create school improvement plans? And then, of course, there's a teacher one and a student focus. How are we improving learning opportunities for teachers? Is teacher absenteeism, which is a big issue in these nations, is teacher absenteeism lower? Are teachers being retained at the school from year to year? In the United States, sometimes we have 15-20% turnover in our schools. Well, we don't want it to even be that high in these schools. Or for students, how are they doing on local exams, national exams? Are our partner schools doing better than non-partner schools? Are they doing better than government schools? And if they aren't, what are the areas they're not doing well in so we can drill down academically into those areas?
All righty. So a great explanation. Let me mention, if people want to learn more about this, I encourage them to check out www.globaledleadership.org. That's globaledleadership.org. And if somebody wanted to reach out to you, is there a best point of contact?
Sure. My last name is Cordero, Cordeiro, at sandiego.edu. So that's my email. I would welcome any kind of questions or opportunities to chat.
All righty. Well, with about 2 minutes left, let's briefly talk about how the COVID-19 virus is now impacting everything.
Sure. I just got off of a Zoom call with my entire education team in 11 countries. And we all gave updates as to, and remember that technology is a challenge in some of these countries in particular. But they are amazing what they're doing. They are using different mediums from Google Chat to WhatsApp on cell phones. Most people have cell phones. Most people have even a smartphone, at least the proprietors of the school. We're also partnering with other organizations, World Reader, Rising Academies, and these provide free lessons that parents could use in the home, or they provide mobile apps with free downloads on books for people in these particular nations.
Alrighty. So again, technology, as much as it might get a bad rap from time to time, is definitely having a positive influence on the world on many, many levels, even in the middle of a pandemic. And I just want to close off with really stressing what a great opportunity this is. If you have the good fortune of financial success and you are looking for ways to invest your money because you need to take care of your own family, but you also want to take care of the world, be aware that there is the possibility of a triple bottom line, something that improves profit, but also people and the planet. And that is where just it does your pocketbook good, it does your heart good, it does your soul good, it does the world good. So again, if you want to learn a little bit more, globaledleadership.org. We'll be back next time with more great information here on the Business Spotlight Show, powered by WSRadio.com. We are the worldwide leader in Internet talk. Hey, it's Wade Taylor of Reinvention Radio. And guess what? We're looking for guests just like you to feature on our show. Even better, 39 of our friends with super high-profile shows are looking for guests too. And we're all getting together this September for one reason, to meet you. That's right. The Reinvention Radio team and hosts of shows like The Conscious Millionaire and The Solopreneur Hour will be at the New Media Summit. At the New Media Summit, you're guaranteed to have private meetings with 40 icons of influence who you can pitch to appear on their shows and leave with bookings in hand. It's happening September 22nd through 24th in San Diego. Only 150 people get to attend so that everyone has time to connect with the hosts they want to meet. Less than 50 spots remain. Collectively, we reach over 1 million people monthly. We'll help you get the visibility you deserve. Reserve your ticket at newmediasummit.net.
Tired of presentations with no impact, no inspiration, and no traction? Do dull speakers have you and your team disengaged and distracted by smartphones? Christopher McAuliffe brings energy, insights, and 2 decades of experience, delivered with punch, humor, and heart. Your team will leave energized, uplifted, and with a sense of purpose. Visit ChristopherMcAuliffe.com to bring some heat to your next speaking engagement. McAuliffe. ChristopherMcAuliffe.com.
I've been bragging about Progressive Medical Center to you guys for years, and I'm so excited to have Dr. Agoli with us because, Dr. Agoli, a lot of people walk through your doors, and some of their biggest problems are they're just fatigued, they're tired all the time, and even though they're dieting and exercising, they cannot get the weight off. Why is that?
It's a combination of poor metabolism, inappropriate eating, but more importantly, it's due to a lack of education and really doing the right testing. A lot of our patients are metabolically compromised. What does that mean? Their metabolism is not functioning. The metabolism is responsible for all physical and chemical processes necessary to sustain life, and that includes energy. And without cellular energy, your body is not going to be a burning machine. Let's get back and teach our listeners to be a fat-burning machine.
It's been a lot easier to maintain my weight since Progressive Medical Center started treating me with all-natural supplements, learning proper nutrition, and that can be you today. No more frustrations about being tired or overweight. So why don't you get a hold of Progressive Medical Center today through ProgressiveMedicalCenter.com.
This is your life, live it well.
Kinja Dixon was crowned the #1 sales executive through hard work, deep thinking, and the revelation of universal talk laws. He now wants to share these lessons with you. Universal talk laws are what you need to know and use in business and at home to have successful and effective conversations. Kinja Dixon shares his wisdom, action plans, and wealth. Each book comes with a chance to win $10,000. Find Universal Talk Laws at KinjaDixon.com.